Bill and Susan are both 62 years old, and they're facing a decision that you might be facing as well. Do they claim Social Security now or wait until age 70 to receive the maximum benefit? Getting it right is worth well over $100,000 to them over their lifetimes. And the popular way to make this call, a break even calculation, is about to point them to the wrong question. Here's how that calculation works: you find the age where waiting finally out earns claiming early. And the rule of thumb says if you expect to live past it, then you wait. And if you don't expect to live long, well, then you claim early. It's a fair tool. It's also the wrong one for the most important part of this decision because it can't see the two things that matter most. And it asks you to try and create a crystal ball to determine how long you will live. So let's follow Bill and Susan through the decision the way it should be made. And by the end of this video, hopefully, you'll know how to make your decision as well. Let's start with the mechanics, since the whole decision rests on them. Your full retirement age, if you were born in 1960 or later, is 67 years old. That's the age you receive your full benefit, the amount your earnings record entitles you to, with no reduction and no bonus. Social Security calls it your primary insurance amount. I'll just call it your full benefit. You can start your benefit any month between age 62 and age 70. Every month in between is available to you. 62 is simply the earliest you can file, with some exceptions, and 70 is the point where the increase in your benefit stops. So there's really no reason to delay past it. So let's look at an example. Bill and Susan are both 62, trying to decide when to file. Bill is the higher earner. His benefit at his full retirement age of 67 is $3,000 per month. That means Bill will receive 100% of $3,000 per month if he files at 67. But if Bill files early at age 62, he will only receive 70% of $3,000 or $2,100 per month. Now, for every month Bill delays filing all the way up to his full retirement age, he receives a prorated increase. Again, every single month counts. So it increases to 75, 80, 86.7, and 93.3% at age 66, which is equivalent to $27.99 per month. Now, for every full year Bill delays past his full retirement age, he receives an 8% simple interest increase. This means if Bill files at 68, he would get 108% of $3,000 or $32.40 per month. It then maxes out at age 70. 3 years of 8% interest is 24%. So at 70, Bill receives 124% of 3,000, which is 37.20 per month. Across the full range, someone filing at 70 receives a monthly benefit roughly 77% larger than someone filing at 62 on an identical earnings record. That's the trade-off at the center of this: a smaller check sooner against a larger check later. And the larger base compounds. Cost of living adjustments are applied to whatever benefit you're receiving. So starting from a bigger number means every future inflation increase is calculated on that bigger number. And over a long retirement, the gap widens further. The standard way to measure that trade-off is a break-even analysis, and it's worth understanding because it does capture something real. Take the two ends of the range, filing at 62 versus waiting to 70. The early filer banks 8 years of checks before the person who waited collects a dime. So for a long stretch, they're well ahead. The larger benefit slowly closes that gap, and the two paths cross somewhere around age 80. That's the break even for those two specific ages. Live past it and waiting until 70 comes out ahead on total dollars. If you pass away early, then filing at 62 was more lucrative. It's worth being precise here, though, because there's a different crossover for every pair of ages you compare: 62 against 67, 67 against 70, and so forth and so on. So each land at their own point. The rough age 80 figure is specifically the 62 versus 70 comparison. The limitation of the break-even analysis is what it leaves out. The calculation reduces the decision to one single measure: the total dollars you personally collect. And it can't run at all without assuming a lifespan. Neither of those hold up as the whole story. There are two other roles that a break even number doesn't show. And depending on your situation, either one of them can outweigh the crossover age. The first is protection against a long life. The scenario that strains a retirement financially isn't dying early. It's living a long time and still needing income in your late 80s and 90s. Social Security is unusual in that it pays for exactly as long as you live, and it adjusts for inflation the entire way, which makes it the closest thing most people have to guaranteed lifetime income. Delaying your benefit raises that guaranteed floor. Waiting isn't a bet that you'll live long, it's a way to cover the outcome where you do, which is the outcome that carries the real financial risk. And it isn't a remote outcome. A healthy 65-year-old has a real chance of reaching their late 80s. And for a married couple, the odds that at least one spouse lives past 90 are better than even. The second is their survivor benefit, and it matters most for married couples. When one spouse dies, the survivor keeps the larger of the two benefits, not both of them. So the higher earner's benefit isn't only their own income, it sets the income their spouse will live on afterward. Let's go back to Bill and Susan. Susan's own benefit is $1,500. So while they're both alive, they receive $4,500 per month collectively when you add it to Bill's $3,000 per month full retirement age benefit. When Bill dies, Susan inherits the larger benefit and the smaller one goes away. If Bill delayed to $37.20 per month, that's what Susan keeps. A break even analysis runs on one person's lifespan and doesn't account for this at all. And for couples, it's frequently the deciding factor. It also points to the coordination move worth considering. A couple doesn't have to make the same choice for both people. In many cases, it makes sense for the lower earner to file early, bringing in income into the household sooner, while the higher earner delays to build the benefit that will eventually protect the survivor. One decision handles the cash flow now, the other handles security later. There's a tax dimension as well. Your Social Security and the withdrawals you take from retirement accounts affect one another. And the timing of your claim can change how much of your income is taxable, including how it lines up with required minimum distributions down the road. That deserves its own conversation, but the takeaway here is that this decision doesn't sit in isolation. It's one piece of a larger tax picture, and it's better coordinated with the rest of your plan than made on its own. There's a specific version of this worth mentioning specifically. The years after you retire, but before you claim Social Security and before required minimum distributions begin, are often your lowest income years, which is exactly when strategies like Roth conversions are the most effective. Delaying your Social Security can keep that lower income window open longer. It isn't a reason to wait by itself, but for anyone coordinating the whole picture, it's a real part of the math. Another conversation about Social Security revolves around the strategy of filing early and investing it with a theory that the market will beat what you'd gained by waiting. And it's a fair thing to test. The hurdle is that the delayed benefit grows by roughly 8% per year, guaranteed, keeps pace with inflation, and pays you no matter how long you live. Matching that with a portfolio after accounting for risk over the exact years you're drawing income is a pretty tall order, especially if a market downturn arrives early while you're withdrawing. It can work for a disciplined investor who reinvests the entire difference and leaves it alone. In most cases, the guaranteed increase from waiting is a pretty high bar for a portfolio to clear. And another practical note, if you're weighing an early claim while you're still working, before full retirement age, Social Security applies what's called an earnings test. If your wages run above a set threshold, part of your benefit is withheld for the time being. It isn't gone for good, it gets credited back through a higher benefit once you reach your full retirement age. But it does mean that filing early, while still earning a solid salary, may not put much of your benefit in your pocket in the meantime. At full retirement age, the earning test no longer applies. So if the break even isn't the whole answer, how do you determine when you should file? It comes down to your circumstances and a few honest questions. The first is whether you need the income. If you're retired at 62 and Social Security covers your expenses, the decision is largely made, and there's nothing wrong with that. Filing early is what makes retirement possible for many people, and this strategy discussion assumes a flexibility not everyone has. But if you do have room to choose, your health and your family history certainly come into play. Someone managing a serious health condition or from a family whose members haven't often reached their late 70s has a sound reason to file earlier and use the money while they can. Someone in strong health with longevity in the family is looking directly at the long life that delaying is meant to cover. For married couples, their survivor benefit usually carries the most weight. If you're the higher earner, delaying does two jobs at once. It raises your own benefit and it raises the floor your spouse will have later. Even with real doubts about your own longevity, the chance that at least one of you lives well into your late 80s is high. And that's the life the large survivor benefit supports. The lower earner genuinely has less reason to wait and can often file earlier at no cost to the household. If you're single, the survivor question falls away, and the decision rests mostly on your health and your family's longevity and whether you need the income now. A single person in good health has a strong case for waiting. A single person with health concerns and no dependents has an equally sound case for filing early. Full retirement age at 67 is often the reasonable landing spot for someone without a strong pull toward either end. You avoid the permanent reduction that comes with filing early, and you don't have to fund as many years from your savings as delaying to 70 would require. And keep in mind, you aren't confined to 62 or 67 or 70. If waiting is the right answer in principle, but you need income at 68, you can file at 68. The range is continuous, and your answer can sit anywhere along it. It's also worth knowing that this choice is close to permanent. Once you file, you're largely committed to that amount. There are two narrow exceptions. You can withdraw your application within the first 12 months and repay what you've already collected. And once you reach full retirement age, you can voluntarily suspend your benefit to let it grow again. Both are limited, and most filers don't use them. So it's realistic to treat the choice as the one that you're going to live with. So let's settle Bill and Susan's decision once and for all with real numbers. Say they both live to 90. If they both claim at 62, they collect about 1.06 million over their lifetimes. If they both wait until age 70, about 1.34 million is what they'll collect. And if Susan claims at 62 while Bill waits to 70, they'll collect about 1.25 million. Now, if this decision were only about squeezing out the largest number, we would be done. Both wait till 70, collect the maximum benefit. There really isn't a debate here. But look at the split. Susan early and Bill late. It comes in lower than both waiting, and it is still the right answer for them. That's the whole point. This was never about maximizing your Social Security. It's about optimizing it for your actual life. The biggest check and the best decision are not necessarily the same thing. Here's why the split wins for Bill and Susan, even though it's not the largest number. Susan claiming at 62 brings income 8 years sooner while they are younger and they want it. And it costs them very little down the road. To see why, watch what happens if Bill dies early, say at 75. When Bill passes, the survivor benefit takes over. Susan drops her own check and keeps his. And this is when what is called the widow's limit comes into play. If Bill had claimed at 62, Susan is not held to the 2100 he was collecting. She is floored at 82.5% of his full benefit, which is roughly $2,475 per month. If Bill had waited to 70, Susan keeps his 3720 instead. So waiting still gives Susan about $1,245 more every month for as long as she lives, decided entirely by when Bill filed. That's why the two checks call for two different moves. Susan's benefit is temporary. The day Bill dies, it's set aside because the survivor keeps the larger check, which is his. So making Susan wait to grow her benefit is growing something that gets thrown away. There is little point in it, and every reason to take it early. Bill's check is the opposite. It's what Susan lives on after he's gone, so it's worth making it as large as it can be. So the split is not hedging your bets. It follows the logic. Take the temporary benefit early and grow the permanent one. Susan files at 62 to bring income in now. Bill waits to 70 to leave the biggest possible check behind. Income now, protection later. And they gave up only a small slice of the total dollars to get both. For a married couple with a clear higher earner, this is usually a very strong play. The one requirement is being able to afford those bridge years. And if you can't, That's its own honest answer, which brings me back to where this all started. There's no single claiming age that's right for everyone because the best answer depends on things that you can only partially know from the outset. Chief among them, how long are you going to live? And if you're married, what your spouse would be left with. The most useful way to frame it isn't as a prediction of when you'll die. It's a choice about which risk you'd rather cover. If your main concern is not living long enough to enjoy your savings, filing earlier is a defensible choice. If your main concern is outliving your money or leaving a spouse with less, delaying is doing real work for you. For someone with the savings to decide freely, the long life tends to be the scenario worth insuring against, but that's a judgment about your own life. And now you have the pieces to make it. So, where are you leaning with your own personal decision? Are you thinking about filing early? Are you thinking about waiting? And what's the biggest factor that's pulling you that direction? Leave your comments below. I'd love to hear them. For those of you new to the channel, I post videos every single week. If you found anything valuable about this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Or if you know someone who might find it interesting, please consider sharing it with them as well. And if you ever like a hand applying any of this to your own situation, you'll find a link right below in the description whenever you're ready to schedule time to speak with us at no cost to get your retirement questions answered. Just remember the difference between worrying about retirement and enjoying it usually isn't more money. It's about taking the time to inspect what you already have and building a plan around it. As always, I appreciate you spending part of your day with me, and I'll see you in the next video.